fabricated. Like, I knocked her phone out of her hand. I didn't touch her. It just hit her phone.
Oh, well, see, that's part of the
so that's
story
what I'm
that's
saying.
not getting out.
Yeah, it's totally, she zhuzhed it up. You know, she was totally fine. I even said, like, are you okay? All right, you're awesome, you're good. And then I ran away. Like, there's no intent of, like, there no malice. There was no intent to intimidate. It was really just to stop the camera rolling.
This is kind of a hard question to ask, so I want you to take it in the spirit that I mean it, because I really just want to get your side of the story out, okay?
Okay.
Why did you want to take the camera away from her? I guess is where we'll start.
Well, just because, like, I don't know, I wanted the whole situation to end as fast as I could, and that was just my first thought bubble. Wasn't a very good one. It wasn't made in a very classy mindset. But yeah,
Well, we understand that there's a lot of differences of opinions going on right now. Do you think it is okay for people to hold alternative opinions without being attacked?
Well, yeah, like I said, I don't believe I handled the situation at all the way that I could have. But that also being said, there was no the phrasing or whatnot of this, attacked and wounded or whatnot. It's like there was none of that there, and she knew that. Like I know that she knows that there was no there was no harm meant. Like, I know that she didn't feel in danger.
Do you think that
that's what I know.
Do you think that part of the backlash you're experiencing right now is due to the Me Too movement, and they're kind of just bunching you in with these abusers when you're really not?
Well, it's the whole internet thing, really. It's just like people who live on the internet latch onto this shit, and like, if you were to actually sit me and this girl down side by side and chat it out, yeah, at the end of the interview it would be like, yes, I am an asshole and I accidentally, didn't, I wasn't classy, let's just say. I could have handled that a lot more classy.
I hear this costume.
It's like, from the stories that are around, there's definitely, the stories that are floating around is one side pushing a version of it that is exaggerated.
Do you think it's being fueled by the Me Too movement?
I don't know about the Me Too movement. Like, I know it's fueled with the whole, the internet being like, I want to say animosity, that's the wrong word, the amnestinity, animosity. I can type something and say something, and it won't really come back to me because I'm miles and miles away. It's like, I don't think, if somebody bumped into me on the street and was like, hey, are you that guy? They probably wouldn't, say a whole bunch of the same stuff being said on the internet.
Yeah, there are a lot of keyboard warriors, I'll give you that. Let me ask you another tough one. I heard you lost your job over this.
Sorry?
I said I heard you lost your job over this.
Yeah, that wasn't fun. But it was under, they fired me for something else, And when I said, like, that doesn't make sense, we've never talked about this, then later they posted and dropped my full name, and at nowhere has anybody used my full name before this post, and so I'm like, oh, well, shit. Now I really have some damage control.
What was the reason they told you that they were firing you?
Well, it was because they said that, it was silly. It was basically like the classic me and another girl kind of butt heads, but, you know, that's like at any given place, you know, workplace, you know, a few people are bound to butt heads, but we tried to make it work. We tried to, we talked to each other. We made it okay. But this girl, the manager, just used that as like, one time I saw you butt heads Saturday. You're not a good fit. You're got. And she never mentioned it. And I even mentioned it, like, oh my gosh, this crazy thing happened.
Did they fire you before or after they knew about the roundhouse kick?
Well, that's the thing. Oh, A, it's not a roundhouse. B, it was after.
Oh, okay. What would you describe that kick? What do you call it?
Well, it's not. It wasn't anything.
I mean, by the way, that was a pretty impressive kick. Don't get me wrong.
No, it wasn't. It was so, like, drawn out and comical, and, like, that's what I mean. Like, it's very clear that I'm not trying, like, there is no intent to hurt, intimidate, maim. It's like I'm sticking my tongue out like a silly gesture.
Why didn't you stick your tongue out?
Well, it's just because, like, I don't know, it was just, you stick your tongue out.
Are you trained
but,
in
like,
martial arts?
I was clearly making a funny face, like, I wasn't, that's my whole bit, is, like, I wasn't trying to come across as intimidating, or I'm gonna hurt you. It was just like, allow me to knock your cell phone out of your hand for you, and, well, I walk away.
Are you trained in martial arts?
Sorry?
Martial arts?
I'm sorry, you're kind of cutting out.
I said, are you trained in martial arts?
No. I mean, like, I'm sure everybody went to judo or karate as a kid. Like, no.
Okay. All right. If you could say anything to this young woman, is there anything that you want to say to her?
Honestly, I'm very sorry for how I acted. I could have handled it much differently, and, you know, this is actually a really close, like, I'm a boy, I don't have that, like, this isn't my battle, but it's like, I've had friends who has, I need to be as vague as possible with this, but I've had a friend, or let's say I know, and they were a young girl, and they were sexually assaulted by a family member, and they became pregnant, and she had to have that procedure done, because if she didn't have that procedure done, it's a small town, everybody could have known, like, it's not right, and it's like, and then if you can, and if you're saying, well, we are going to give that little girl up to adoption, or that little boy up for adoption, or whatever it's going to happen, the psychological ramifications of bringing that child fully to term would be so damaging and devastating that it would change her forever, for not necessarily the best. And so I just kind of vaguely touched on a verge, like and it just struck a nerve. And like I said, I didn't handle it well. I wish I could actually apologize to her without getting in a mass amount of trouble. But, like, you know, it's just, I don't think, you know, this is a really close to home subject for a lot of people, and unfortunately, a lot of people are really emotionally charged about this. And another thing, it's like there's a lot of people saying, I wouldn't have done it if it was a boy or a 6 foot tall. The only difference, if it was a 6'3", guy with a camera, the only difference is I probably would have kicked a little higher. Probably still would have missed. But the whole thing is the phone. I was after the phone. At no point was I looking for damage or to intimidate or to assault or to do anything other than, just
how much
make
of
a
this?
statement.
How much of this do you think is actually really President Trump's fault for creating this atmosphere?
Wait, what?
How much of this? How much of this hyperbole in the public do you think is President Trump's fault for actually creating this atmosphere?
I don't think it's necessarily, don't get me wrong, I don't like Trump, and I think he's a terrible person. That there's always been this battle, and it's always been a really, hot button issue, and it's just because politically there's a lot of other things that we're seeing, in the political spectrum that is just mind-blowing and baffling. So it's it's kind of hard to kind of keep track and kind of stay focused on what really matters. And it's what matters is that, this girl doesn't feel, I know she doesn't feel, terrified to walk down the streets because somebody might get her. I know that we may have had this altercation, but I don't think it's, I don't know, a president's fault. I think this is a people problem. This is a people not really knowing how to functionally discuss with each other.
Can I quote you on that?
On what part?
On people not being able to functionally discuss things with each other.
Yeah, sure.
What was I going to ask you? Oh, were you at this rally? Did you attend this rally?
No. I just walked by it. I walked through it. And this is the first time I've ever seen one. I've never seen one, and that's kind of another reason why I was like, what? What is all of this?